What is this parable saying to us? Luke was written after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Jesus' believers were becoming discouraged. They had expected Jesus to return quickly, but so far he hadn't. The original 12 disciples had passed away, and even the second generation of followers were getting old. Persecution had also taken its toll. It seemed that everything Jesus had predicted had happened, and the second coming of Christ should have followed soon after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 CE. The stories that had been told with such urgency a generation ago were losing their shine. Some details were getting confused, and still Jesus had not returned. In the middle of this confusion and discouragement, Luke set out to tell the story of the good news, to refresh everyone's memory and put events into their proper perspective. He addressed a primarily Gentile audience, drawing on stories that had been told over and over again, arranging them in an order that was designed to encourage believers to keep on believing. Luke explained the parable before sharing the parable itself. Luke wanted his readers and listeners to know that Jesus had not broken his promise to return, but was waiting for the second coming, required more than sitting in an upper room. It meant actively participating in the work of the kingdom, working for fairness and justice. Widows in Jesus' time were a marginalised group. Their socio-economic status entirely depended on their sons. Imagine if they didn't have any sons. So, as a woman with no man to speak for her, she would have been walled behind her veil and widow's weeds, effectively silenced. This parable Jesus is sharing would have sparked interest and amusement to his listeners. It is loaded with irony. This widow had no rights. She, in fact, did not have access to a judge, but that didn't stop her. She kept on calling, trusting, despite all evidence to the contrary, that there would be a breakthrough in her hopelessness. The judge agrees to the widow's request, not out of moral duty, but out of anger and tiredness. In fact, he got so annoyed at her persistence, he gave up and granted her request. Those whose lives have been disenfranchised are familiar with the attitude of this unjust judge, this one who silences their voice and uses power and privilege to deny them justice. During my time at Te Tāpui Atawhai, I have spent many hours supporting tangata in the district court. In fact, it's 3 minutes from here to the district court. Most charges they face are for shoplifting, disorderly behaviour, or possession of illegal substances, often referred to as petty crime. However, crime has been committed and charges have been laid, so off to court they go. I have experienced what feels like disinterested judges, and I have queried their decisions on occasion. I have been told that this is not an acceptable thing to do to a judge. However, if a judge makes a decision to bail someone to an address that has no accommodation, I consider that an error, and the judge needs to know this. 140 Hobson Street is often used as a bail address, and inevitably the defendant does not live at 140 Hobson Street. We have a group of our whānau who get incarcerated, lose their tenancy, and then are released back to the street to be rough sleepers until they're arrested again and the cycle goes on. 15 years ago, a new court was established to deal with these low-level crimes. This court was known as the New Beginnings Court. This was the result of persistence by social services such as the Mission, Salvation Army, and LifeWise. The judge, Tony Fitzgerald, has also been consistent in ensuring that those who appear before him are well represented and supported to make changes that result in life changes that hopefully mean they are getting off the cycle of offending. Judge Fitzgerald, how dare he, is retiring next month. He will be missed. Nevertheless, his court will be continuing, which is great news for our marginalised tangata. Our parable has a widow who is a marginalised woman with no power or voice, and we have a male judge who has all the power and control. Well, this was written 2,000 years ago. This power imbalance still is very evident in our world. We have an increase in homelessness, and women are very evident in this cohort. Our government has made some interesting decisions around emergency housing, resulting in Auckland's rough sleepers increasing to an alarming level. We have very few options for them except boarding houses, and this is such an unsafe option that many choose to stay on the streets. Our medical profession's current challenges to the government are an example of challenging injustice and inequity. I collaborate with a cohort who find healthcare difficult to navigate and are often left behind, resulting in life shortening due to not having the medical care when it is needed. Our widow was persistent and resilient against the judge, and we also need to be persistent and resilient to challenge our power structures when there is unfairness and marginalisation of the less empowered in our community. Luke's parable helps us to focus our attention on the importance of staying persistently connected to God. Amen.